And now, our feature presentation.
To infinity and beyond!
My name's Bond. James Bond.
That'll do, pig.
Bad boys, what you gonna do?
Show you with the box. Who's in the box?
Ew! Get off of me! F.
A lot of people go to college for 7 years.
I know. They're called doctors.
Houston, we have a problem.
Slashers, what are you thankful for? What's going on, everybody? Welcome into 52/1995, your live movie conversation podcast where we dive deep into the movies of 1995. I'm your host, Cody, and I'm thrilled to be joined this week by my co-host, Ryan, to discuss the movie Crumb. Crumb. If this is your first time tuning in, we're glad that you're here. Every week, 52 of them to be exact, we explore a different film from the year 1995. We dive into the year's important releases, discuss them in detail, and then chat with my guest about their thoughts and experiences with the movie. And currently, we are doing themed months of these movies. I didn't really have a good theme for these 5 movies, so I just said it was something for everyone, where each of our movies are a grab bag of genres from the year 1995. As you could tell, we've done, Species and Batman Forever, and now we're doing a documentary. It's so far away from the things that we've done previously, and we are talking about the movie Crumb, which is a documentary about R. Crumb, a cartoonist and underground comics guy from the 60s and 70s and 80s even. So a lot to be said about this. I had seen this movie before. Had you seen this one before, Ryan?
So I thought I had, because I went through like a brief period around college or something where I, learned about underground comics and Harvey P. Carr and R. Crumb and kind of dove into that. And I was watching this documentary going, man, it's kind of interesting that I don't remember a lot of this problematic stuff. Is it because I was young or the times have changed or I've changed? Then by the end of it, I was like, I don't think I've seen this movie before. I would have remembered that.
Yeah,
I might have seen it and been like, cool, man.
Yeah.
Or I was like, or I haven't seen it and just thought I had.
I think, and this goes to like one of my other like pairings with this about individuals like Crumb, that I do think that younger men might find like cool, or find some aspects of like what oh, you can't cancel me, bro, because like I'm uncanceled. I'll just say whatever, free speech. I don't know. Like there's like that element of it.
Yes.
Like Hunter S. Thompson, I think of,
yeah,
use that out in people where they're like, oh, isn't he so cool and artsy? And I'm like, no, I think he's a dick, and I think he's creepy. And
well, I'll start off. I mean, we'll just rip the Band-Aid off. All artists are assholes.
Yeah.
Every good artist is an asshole.
It's true.
Except the women. But I mean, all male artists are complete assholes. And guess what? All hippie celebrities are assholes. They were all assholes. They were all bad people. So we'll have a lot to talk about in this movie about art and artists and how to appreciate those things, because this was a difficult watch.
Yeah, it really was. And reading about this movie, you read about how it was not like, this is a much, I mean, a lot of critics like this movie. Like, this is a very popular movie. Very, like, people love this movie. And some of the critiques that I've seen, like Roger Ebert, this is in his great movies list.
Mm-hmm.
He explains why.
Best movie of 1995.
Yeah, Siskel. Yeah, this was number 2 for Ebert and number 1 for Siskel. So they love this movie. Look, break it. Let me get to that part now. Let's just go through it. So the name of the movie is Crumb. It came out April 28th, 1995. Some of you might call me out on it and say this is a 94 movie. It wasn't released in the United States fully until 1995, which is what I base it on. So
shut up.
Yeah, shut up. This is directed by Terry Zwigoff, who most of you probably know from the movie Bad Santa. He is the director of Bad Santa, which is wild.
Yeah.
And then Ghost World probably aligns better with this.
I'm a big stan of Art School Confidential. I love that movie. It's very flawed, but I love that movie.
I haven't seen Art School Confidential probably since it came out, but I really liked that movie. I think Max Miguel is in that movie, and
Ethan Suplee.
Yeah,
my boy Jim Broadbent. Oh my god, my favorite Jim Broadbent role.
It's a good movie. I like that. I enjoy it,
but it's very cool.
So the synopsis around this movie is filmmaker Terry Zwigoff creates a complex but affectionate portrait of his longtime friend, underground cartoonist Robert Crumb, a notorious curmudgeon who would prefer to be alone with his fellow cartoonist wife, Aline Kaminsky Crumb, and his beloved vintage jazz records. Crumb reveals himself to be a complicated personality who suffered a troubled upbringing and harbors a philosophical opposition to the 1960s hippie underground that first celebrated his work. This movie had a budget of $200,000, had a box office return of $3 million. And getting to where we were talking previously, Rotten Tomatoes has this at a 95%, IMDb 8 out of 10, Letterboxd 4.2 out of 10, Roger Ebert 4 out of 4. He said Crumb, which is one of the most Crumb is one of the most remarkable and haunting documentaries ever made. It is the kind of film that you watch in disbelief as layer after layer is peeled away and you begin to understand the strategies that have kept Crumb alive and made him successful, while one of his brothers becomes a recluse in an upstairs bedroom and the other passes his time literally sitting on a bed of nails. And I could not find any bad reviews about this. There were a couple, but I couldn't find the actual articles that they were written about this. And I do think the 2 bad reviews came from women, which makes so much sense.
A lot of sense. Yeah.
Sense.
Fair game.
In talking about like how this was well loved and everything, it wasn't nominated for the best documentary feature, and so like there was an outcry over this. We talked about it when we did Hoop Dreams last year. Yeah. Hoop Dreams kind of kicked this off of like, hey, you guys aren't actually choosing the best documentary, what the hell? And then this came out and they didn't choose it either. The nominating committee only made it 20 minutes into this movie, which is probably more time than Alyssa sat through this movie, because she nope, I'm done.
Actually, I watched half this movie with my girlfriend and then had to go leave to do something. And I gave her the remote. I was like, you don't have to watch it. She goes, I'm not going to watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, absolutely.
It's fair.
Well, I think maybe the reason for a lot of its success in 1995 is we've had an ongoing conversation throughout this podcast about the like sanitary nature of the mid 90s and late 90s in film and kind of in the culture. Now, it's hard to separate the fact that I was a kid then, so I saw the most sanitary things. But compared to what came before in the 70s, and what's come after in the 2010s, 2020s, like the darkness was not very present in American film and culture in the mid-90s.
You see that a lot with the Best Picture nominees of this year. I mean, it's Apollo 13 and Babe and Braveheart and these
very sweet movies. Even Braveheart with people's heads getting chopped off. It's very like simple morality, very like uplifting themes, very family friendly for the most part. So like I think that people seeing something like this kind of after the independent cinema movement of the early 90s, it was probably for a lot of critics and maybe like film fans a breath of fresh air. And I will say that the Terry Zwigoff, being a friend of R. Crumb, does not feel like he's taking R. Crumb's side.
No, not at all.
It feels like a Maisels Brothers film. It feels like I just put the camera on and we let reality happen a little bit. Maybe that's debatable, but I mean, the movie's not going way out of its way. In fact, it's going out of its way to show us only the grossest parts of R. Crumb. Because there's a lot of things in his work that aren't in this movie. Like when R. Crumb, my favorite thing that he ever made was he did like the Old Testament and the New Testament and his bitter satirical take on religion by illustrating the major stories of the Bible. And it's brilliant art and it's very incisive and it's very like has a lot of social critique. They only talk about his portrayals of sex and women in this movie, which is fair game. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's kind of interesting that this is a movie about R. Crumb, the person, and his foibles and doesn't take a lot of time out to be like, but this is also some other stuff he did that like a lot of people could get behind, you know?
Well, I think this movie sets us up a little bit with, hey, this is what this movie is going to be about. When he is giving his little presentation at the beginning of the movie to a college group, he's like, here are the 3 things that I'm known for, or whatever it is. And he's like, Mr. Natural, the keep on trucking thing, which a cartoon, which we've probably all seen and didn't know that was an Crumb thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other one. And then Fritz the Cat. And he's like, you all know me from Fritz the Cat, the movie, and that's a piece of shit. And I shouldn't even, be associated.
I've seen it. It's a really bad movie.
Yeah. That's the only reason I know who Crumb is, honestly, is because of Fritz the Cat, because it was marketed at the time in the 70s as the first X-rated cartoon full-length movie, and of course I wanted to watch it. I was like, an X-rated cartoon, this sounds great. And it's not good. It's really bad and really racist, and not good at all. But that's the only reason I knew this and was excited to watch this movie. I was like, oh yeah, that Fritz movie that I watched a few years ago. I'm really interested to see that, and yeah, it doesn't disappoint.
It is a wild ride. I mean, if you like to watch movies just out of a curiosity, or just to be a completionist on the history of film, you got to check out Fritz the Cat eventually.
Yeah. And with this movie, like, I do wish I was on Letterboxd and I was seeing, all the high ratings of people and their explanation around why they gave it such a high rating. And then I would see a lot of like women's critiques of this, which, and again, rightfully so, just hating this movie. And I was looking for more and more and more of those critiques of this film, because I was like, this is what we're all saying here. I don't know. I wish I could have had Alyssa watch it through just to have the conversation with, but I also don't want her to watch it because I don't want her to have a bad time.
It's I mean, and it's certainly different from a female perspective, which I don't have, but I found this movie deeply uncomfortable, but I liked it in the way that I like Maisel Brothers documentaries, or I like documentaries that like peek into Shut Up Little Man's another one, like found footage of usually mentally unwell people or whatever, but like I don't like to gawk or to take their dignity away or to enjoy the kind of sadness or grossness I'm seeing. But I do think it's an important part of art and an important part of documentary art that somehow gets lost a lot with the tight editing and constant talking heads and Netflix true crime and all that stuff, of just putting the camera on reality that we don't get to see very much and saying, this exists, these are people, and there's people like this all around us. I don't know. I find that fascinating even when it's difficult.
And I wanted to ask you if you felt this way, but for years people have wanted a live, like an adaptation of the book, A Confederacy of Dunces, for a long, long time, and it's never went through. But I'm like, this is probably as close as you'll get to a version of that, because I mean, especially like Charles and his mother, like I was like, oh, that is Ignatius Riley and in Confederacy of Dunces.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a good thought.
I couldn't help but think about that because, very intellectual. These people are smart. These brothers are smart.
That's what one of the things that makes it fascinating, and somehow pulls it off of like, I'm not just rubbernecking at tragedy, right? Because if I were to watch, like, if this was a documentary about some people, families who lived in very remote rural locations, who had low, and if this was like a Faulkner like documentary of like his characters, right? Then at some point I'm like, well, I'm just watching sad, poor, unhealthy people be sad, poor, and unhealthy, right? I think the twisted little interesting part of it is their elevated intelligence, the brothers' elevated intelligence that somehow emerged in their like spectrum disorder, approach to how they deal with their trauma, makes it more of a fascinating character study rather than just watching some gross shit. Although people who say, I don't want to do it, it looks like watching gross shit to me. They have a point,
very fair point. And it's crazy when you see and look at the other brothers of Robert Crumb or R. Crumb, you see that he is the most well-adjusted out of the two, out of them all, and but that
being the most sadistic.
It is.
The brothers make this movie. Without the brothers, this movie is way worse, and it's all of my pathos, all of my feeling, all of the emotions I have, and my desire to keep watching and unlock this puzzle a little bit come through the brothers.
Yes, there is no empathy without their stories.
Yes,
I
because
do not care about
no empathy for anything. He is a sociopath. Yeah.
Yeah. It is you there are some good points in this or parts in this movie where you do see like glimpses of him not being a sociopath a little bit, like whenever he talks about his daughter or you see him interacting with his daughter.
I didn't believe it.
I did and I didn't, and I see what you're saying there because I see him interacting with his two kids. They make an emphasis to show both him interacting with his oldest son and his daughter. His oldest son is from his first marriage, and the son even has a talking head part in this where he's like, oh yeah, he's never like hugged me, he's never told me he loves me, he's never had any kind of emotional relationship with me, but it's always been through drawing and cartooning, and that is how I have.
Talking about drawing is the sweetest and only wholesome part of the movie. It was a really nice scene, and I think because it's such a difficult watch, that when it's just an extended period of them talking about how they draw and how they capture characters, it feels like a much needed rest, a breath of air, amongst a lot of discomfort, to be like, oh, okay, well, when he locks in and can talk to another artist, probably doesn't love this guy as a son like he should, but it can seem like he does when he's just talking artist to artist about they're both of their great talent and what they do to capture little details of faces and stuff, and the fact that they're choosing to capture in that scene a woman who's been put in a very difficult, unpleasant situation to have her picture taken, and trying to bring that situation out through the portraiture. Like, that's really beautiful. That's but it's like the only thing in this movie that's like that. The rest of it is just, well, even when I'm trying to be on Crumb's side, like, he doesn't let me do it.
Yeah. I do like the scene with him and his daughter. I don't necessarily believe when he said prior to his daughter, the only woman I've ever loved is my daughter. Like,
because the scene, and this is maybe on Zweigoff a little bit, he might be doing Crumb a little dirty, because the scene before that where he's talking to his ex-girlfriend is the most uncomfortable scene in the movie. Even though there's darker stuff with talking with his brothers, that's the one that made me deeply uncomfortable in that scene. And he ends that scene being like, the only woman I've ever loved is actually my daughter. And so it comes from that deep, discomfortable place to smash cut to him holding his daughter, and it feels wrong. I don't know. And it's very brief, and then he just kisses her in the cheek, and the girl goes, "Ugh," and then that's it. And that's all you get. So I was like, all right, man, I don't know.
Yeah, I did like the scene, and let's just jump into like our best scenes and everything, just because this one's a hard one to do with our categories because it's a documentary, but we're just going to be talking about the scenes. So continuing on the children thing, because I had that, like, scenes with his children was one of my scene that I decided. But there's another scene where his daughter is sitting down, like, complaining about watching cartoons in black and white, and like you could see him saying like, oh, the best ones are made in black and white, and this is the good stuff. And I don't know, it felt very like parent kid to me, like in a normal parent kid relationship, like, and your parents are like, it was good back in the day.
Yeah, and Crumb, if we can believe that he's like a safe person, he does strike me as the kind of guy who could like enjoy, like, he's the kind of person who's uncomfortable with peers and can sit down with a kid, like almost in a like the other side of Forrest Gump at the end of Forrest Gump, right? Like, that he could get along with a kid, like he could just sit there and like have conversation with his own child or a child for a long period of time and just kind of enjoy it and be himself. I do see that in him. So that came out in that scene.
Yeah. So what other standout scenes? I mean, we can pick apart everything in this movie that make it really memorable.
So I kind of just wrote down everything that was a topic discussed, just so we could pick through it later on. Certainly, like early on, you get some of his life now isn't that interesting. You get that kind of establishing thing, like you said, at the university, where he goes over like his most mainstream hits. He does the weird thing with the high school crushes.
Yeah, that's I think that's where I lost Alyssa. I think is
doxes their asses too. But I mean, this is 1995. People didn't think about that shit.
Rear shelf or whatever.
And I don't know, like his complicated relationship with women, which he, I mean, multiple times is accused of and admits that himself that he has hostility toward women. But but also like has a comfort and warmth for them as well. Not one that redeems his his hostility, but is like part of it for sure. Because he thinks longingly, but then he says things like these are like, oh yeah, she was a dork. I was attracted. You see multiple times early on to women praising his art. And it's one of those things where it probably felt so revolutionary at the time. And then the unfortunate reality is so tragic where he drew women in a way that they weren't drawn and celebrated body types that weren't being celebrated. And that made a lot of women with those body types or otherwise really like his art. When it turns out he was probably just a perv who liked that body type. Like that's not heroic, right? I mean, the only heroic thing you could possibly say is that he was a person who was willing to be weird or different, right? So he wasn't saying, "Hey, let me celebrate the female form in a more realistic and natural way." He was just like, "This is what makes me horny, so I'm going to draw it." And then women who didn't get celebrated for those qualities liked that, which I do think that a lot of Crumb's art is more enjoyable when he's out of the picture.
Yeah, and it is unique to see like anonymous women who are fans of his art because of him drawing real women, but then the real women who he is drawing, like his ex-girlfriend, particularly that one in that scene, is like, yeah, I really like this drawing that you did of me here, and then you made me this, and like, this is not my face, this is not what my face looks like, and he's like, well, that's what I saw of you, and like, oh, I can't change it now, oh no. Even though he was like, oh, I can change it, I can white it out, I can change it. It's interesting to see the women from his past come around. We don't obviously get to see some of the high school people that he draws, or obviously none of the weird drawings that he does of the people from the sanitarium, I guess do it, not sanatorium.
And I mean, throughout all of this, you see him. And I think in the movie, it starts off charming enough. His shruggy laugh is, as a defense mechanism, gets like very tired, more and more tired as it goes on, as the things being said and your understanding of his relationship to these situations changes and evolves. That shruggy laugh becomes way more evil and toxic, where at first it is, I'm just a weird guy, that's what can I say?
How many times during this movie did he say, oh, I just can't not put it down? Like, I think these things and I just can't put it on paper. I actually did a little bit of extra credit on this one, and I listened to a Fresh Air interview from NPR with our Crumb, which he was with a woman interviewer, and he does that laugh. When you mention that laugh, he does it. So, and that was in 2005 when he put out his autobiography, but the interviewer keeps calling him out like, hey, about this is sexist and misogynist and all this stuff, and he just does that laugh and doesn't answer the question at all, and it is really hard to listen to.
Right. It's difficult. Like, I don't know if he doesn't care or if he's unable to, but it becomes, I'll say that, like, a defense of his art, and the reason his art became so popular, like, you also have to think of the 60s and 70s, and I can be a little more generous toward what satire was like, under a much more a closed society, which caused the hippie movement of the 60s and 70s and the counterculture movements. Like, he does have this outsider art take, that he's been doing this as a child, that he is, neurodivergently drawn to just have to put all of these bad thoughts down, that he has to draw, that what comes out, and that he is very admirably unaffected by money, by popularity, by praise, or by criticism. And I do think that that's what makes art very beautiful sometimes, even when it's dark, even when it's fucked up. And I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever like seen like true outsider artists like in a museum or whatever, but it can be really fascinating and very dark and very difficult to watch people like, I forget his name. I saw a great exhibit once about a guy who never left his farmhouse, and everything he drew and was just very reclusive and, never left his own property his whole life. And the art was dark and beautiful, right? And whether it's good art or bad art, or whether his perspective on the world was one that we all can get behind and celebrate as a ethos, it like doesn't matter. It's just about what a person did with their life and their perspective. Anyways, I can respect all of that about R. Crumb. Even so, he can put the dark bits down, and he can put his own psychosexual foibles down. But if he's going to go on NPR, or he's going to have the question asked to him 1,000 times, he should come up with something to say.
Yeah.
Even if it is, yeah, I'm fucked up. Part of it's my family's fault, and part of it's my fault, and I've gotten away with it, and I am deeply hostile to women, which he does admit at times. Like, and that comes out in my art. I don't know. That's who I am. That's what my art is. That's the only reason I'm on this show right now. I don't have an answer for you other than that. If he had to say that every single time he was asked, I could respect it more. But the laugh is just an abdication of responsibility.
Yeah, it's and not to bring up that NPR thing again, but she called him out on the one of his characters, which is his black woman character. I forget the name of it. It's like Sugar or something, or I can't even remember. But anyway, she asks him about it, and she's like, "Yeah, you drew him like that," and he says, "Yeah, I drew that character from what I knew based on like 30s cartoons. Great start." I think, great start. That's what I grew up with. Yeah, that's what I grew up with. And if he would have said like, I'm making it's satirization or something about that and explain that a little further, but he doesn't. He says, oh, that's not like, yeah, that's a depiction of an African-American, but that's not what I think about African-Americans.
Yeah.
And that's how he ended it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only explanation. And she goes, okay, let's move on. Like, yeah, it was an interesting interview. I'd recommend it if you
but you can see you can see the satire in a lot of his comics, and you could see how that really like appealed to counterculture in the 60s. Like, it's easy to pick up that comic at a store and be like, this is cool, weird art. That's not sanitized, and it's not beautified, and it's not commercialized. This is cool, weird art in these cool magazines, comics with an X, this is great. And then I see something like that, and I understand that this is satire, and I understand that there's something very cool that I'm able to see this satire. The problem with Crumb, I think, is that he often politically has the right take, but he doesn't have enough warmth about it. And so he almost like that. The one comic with the black caricature that they show in the documentary is about the African woman being taken advantage of and being stupid. And the satire is that don't trust anybody. People who live outside of evil corporate United States, aren't cynical enough to not be used as commodities, right? And that black people and black culture have been used as commodities by this country forever. Great. I'm not sure that Art Crumb feels bad for those people. I think he just hates humanity. Like, he just hates people. Yeah. And so like he illustrates like how dumb everybody is. So he has a superiority complex that you can get through the man, but if you just read the comics, you can approach it with more warmth than he has in writing it.
I have never seen a person that is so happy to be rich and famous and then say how much he hates being rich and famous in the same thing. Because he does. And he even says it. He's like, oh, if they could see me now, like my high school bullies and all that, if they could see me now. And then it does that hard cut right then. And then you hear him later in the movie talking about, oh, like to his son, like, you just want to be rich and famous. I just want to talk to you about drawing. Or yeah, right. It's a good quote. I like the quote, but
yeah, he has some really good quotes, and I like when he goes on anti-capitalist rants a bit. Like, it's his most likable self. Like, if you're going to be a grump, we'll get to him later, but there are certain quotes that I was like, I said this stuff. I say this stuff all the time, and as a lifelong grump of my own, like, it's a struggle to figure out how to be a good person and be grumpy and angry all the time, right? Like, there's like rules and gates you have to put. Like, it's okay to be grumpy and angry and fed up and frustrated all the time, but you still have to be a good person. And so you have to know how to aim your frustrations away from certain things and people and moments and towards other things, so that you can feel you can't help but be grumpy and angry. I don't think our Crumb can either, like, but you can help like where you put it, right? And he feels a little late, especially after he gets popular, probably seems a little lazy with where he puts his contempt for everybody,
Yeah. And, you brought up Harvey Pekar earlier. Like, I see a big difference in Harvey Pekar and R. Crumb, I mean, they're both doing the counterculture thing and putting out these comics, but there's a self-deprecation of Harvey Pekar that makes him more like relatable. And like, even though he does and complains about the same things in his art and satirizes in his art, you can empathize more with Harvey Pekar than you can an R. Crumb because of that self-deprecation and him just not really
absolutely
loving himself at all. Because I think R. Crumb loves himself.
Yes, he thinks he's as cool as everybody around him thinks he is.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Harvey Pekar, I think, truly is like, I don't want to, like, leave me alone. I don't want to hear it. When he called David Letterman a shill for GE, that was just that was beautiful.
So good. I need to watch. I need to
This made me want to watch American Splendor again.
Yes, it makes me really want to watch American
And R.
Splendor.
Crumb is like a side character in that movie. But Harvey Pekar doesn't come up in this documentary at all. I expect him to be mentioned a little bit, but
well, especially because they worked on a magazine together, or they worked on comic together. I don't know if it was Zap or if it was one of the other ones, but that was like Harvey Pekar's thing.
And there's like the two guys who have this style, like the similar styles and these similar takes and the similar generational thing. But they were kind of frenemies. Like they hung out and liked each other, but they also hated each other. So maybe that's why.
And
to get back on track a little bit, I think we can just kind of like put a circle around, first of all, his upbringing, that they never mentioned. They flirt around his abuse, but they don't ever mention it too briefly. Whereas, like, if it came out that all three of these kids were deeply physically or sexually abused, it would make a lot of sense. Like, everybody would be like, of course, after seeing this documentary, of course they were. They seemed like they had an overbearing tyrant of a father, they called him, who was angry and mean a lot and domineering. And then just maybe a mother who didn't do much about it or could do much about it. And they all three, the three sons, seemed to have a brilliant intellect and were very inwardly focused with each other. And that is like the kind of missing, or that's the most we get of the origin story of these guys, that you can tell there's more there. And then the talks about like they frankly, in a kind of refreshing way, all three brothers talk about like their sexual awakenings and their experiences and like rejection and loss in high school and adolescence or whatever. They all have this this brutal honesty about every part of themselves. And all of that and whatever their different psychological like profiles are clearly like the soup, which all of this, messiness and beautiful stuff comes out of,
And I think that the Charles stuff is, again, probably another part of the movie that, but not the Charles scenes, but when Crumb is talking about his brother and how he was teased relentlessly in high school, and he had all those comics about his brother getting beat up by Scutch. And all, like, I was like, okay, this explains everything. It's not even about Crumb. It's about his brother, Charles. And Charles is the one that forced him to make these comics with him. So what am I going to draw but whatever my big brother is, going through and putting it down. I felt a little bit more there of that empathy whenever they're talking about but again, that all happened to Charles, and we don't really get anything that, like, the only thing we get about Crumb is he's like, yeah, I was nerdy and not good looking and no girls liked me. And
he goes into depth multiple times of feeling anger about that. I mean, when I was young, I felt anger at like not being appreciated or loved for who I was, and realizing I didn't have the things that like, people wanted, especially when you're young and at your most shallow. But he doesn't, and multiple times people are saying that like his most offensive comics are just juvenile, and they very much are like, he is very stuck in Arrested Development at a angry high school age.
Yeah.
And he's like, I hate this, and I hate women for choosing the wrong men, and I hate the world for choosing the wrong people and the wrong things. They should choose me. They should like what I like. And that festers and probably starts off as a noble and important feeling as a young person, but like doesn't grow into maturity and just festers into more bitterness and punishing with power.
And it's something he can hide behind too.
Mhm.
Whenever he's putting out these comics that are making fun of yuppies and that culture, like everybody, like anybody in the counterculture can get behind that. Anybody that feels oppressed by capitalism or whatever it may be can get behind that and be like, "Yep."
It's a smokescreen.
But it comes with that, just like, oh, the jocks get all the girls and nobody likes me. Like that's what it comes. Like that is the whole reason he does this. And I think we're attributing things to, like, especially there's one art critic in this movie that I just cannot stand.
Oh yeah, he's bootlicking pretty hard. You're talking about Mr. Bruegel, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Bruegel there. Robert Hughes is his name. I just put him in my, like, that was the most, like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, and like I said, you can't be mad at Terry Zwigoff for like running defense for Crumb, because I don't think he does very much in this movie. But the first time is when that Mother Jones reporter, I have her name somewhere, Deidre English, where she like rips apart his comic like and says this is not satire, this is pornography, and it's a juvenile, angry, stupid version of sex that R. Crumb likes, and that's what he's doing here, and he does that a lot in his work. And like Zwigoff immediately runs back to that guy and shows him going like, just kind of the glazing Crumb a little bit. And I was like, all right, Terry, like let that sit for a minute, because she really roasted his ass and like he deserved it. I don't think Zwigoff does that throughout the whole movie.
And I don't think that Robert Hughes critic comes off that well either. Whenever he's trying to defend Crumb, it's very much like that NPR interview that I did. Like he just kind of laughs it off. And he's like, yeah, he's racist and sexist. Like, but he's an artist and he's that good. And he doesn't really say anything.
He clearly feels, that guy feels like a person who knows Crumb's work well enough, but probably is an expert on it and was hired to say, hey, will you be a talking head, like talking about Crumb's influence, and wasn't there to bring nuance, or didn't bring nuance when he would film those things. Just kind of gave you the art book Wikipedia version of like what Crumb's art was about,
Yeah.
But we get a lot of that stuff. We get a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, he's getting boners at 4 and humping his mom's boots and singing "Jesus Loves Me." I mean, some of this is wildly entertaining because it's so out there. He's turned on by Bugs Bunny, in cartoons.
Not even girl Bugs Bunny, regular Bugs Bunny.
Regular Bugs Bunny, which is really degenerate. Yeah. Girl Bugs Bunny's fairly normal, guys.
Yeah, we can. You put Bugs Bunny in drag, we're in.
We're okay. Let's become a meme that everybody.
And then he gets mad when he has this crumpled piece of paper of the Bugs Bunny that he's obviously been masturbating to for years or whatever it is. He asks his mom to iron it out for him, and then she destroys it because it gets too hot. It's paper, and crumbles away, and he's so sad and mad about it. Like, as
dark as this is, like this, this looks like a real life like Faulkner novel or Flannery O'Connor like story. Like this is like deep Southern Gothic like psychosexual repression and ignorance. Like I've read books like these that are considered masterful literature, but he's just like living that way. This is just who he was. Yeah. John Updike would write about this.
Yeah. Who's the guy that wrote Cormac McCarthy could get into this.
Yes. Yeah. It feels like that stuff. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But there are some things about this documentary, not even just about Crumb, that Zwigoff does really well. It's like these interstitials of him either drawing like on the street in that cafe that I really love. Like there are some images in this that Zwigoff gets that I was like, man, that's so good. Like you're actually giving me more emotion with these still pieces, just watching him draw or just watching him, watch the movers come in. Like there's a scene, he's just sitting there at the table as his house is being emptied out and he's got his hand in his head in his hand like this. And I'm just like, I have more emotion from that than if we didn't let Crumb talk the entire time, it might have went off better. But
this is one of those movies where I really can see the artistic value of this documentary. Absolutely. But it's like one of those things if it's like, if I have to be in conversation and be like, I really like Crumb, it's like saying, yeah, Lolita's a great book, but I get it. Like,
it's a good pull.
Yeah, it's an amazing book, but no, like in the way that you're supposed to say it's an amazing book.
Right,
like,
right. That's the thing that I keep like when trying to rate this movie and like give it a positive review. I'm like, yeah, I really enjoyed it, but God, the subject matter is
Yeah, I mean, I won't go deep into it. I just we just did one of my favorite books, Bastard Out of Carolina, for a book club last night, and I was hyping people up on it being one of my favorite books, and then had to do what I've had to do a lot in my life to be like, look, it's fucked up. I like fucked up shit. Like I like dark art and stuff that like shows real human stuff. It isn't like, light isn't shine on very much. And I have to be like, I don't enjoy suffering. Like this isn't fun. This is not entertainment, but I feel more affected. I feel more alive. I feel more human sometimes witnessing sadness and failure and complexity. That makes me feel more alive than maybe, just eating candy. Makes me feel happy, but that is kind of how I can enjoy stuff like this. And I mean, I'm going to mention all the pair with movies before we get to it, but like Grey Gardens makes me feel that way.
This does give me very
Yeah.
yes. This gives me very great, like so much Grey Gardens. I
And I think it's one of the best documentaries ever made is Grey Gardens. You know, so.
Grey Gardens. I was thinking about that, and one of the talking about like being uncomfortable. Like this is a.
People don't have to do. They don't have to like watch art to be uncomfortable. They don't have to like explore sadness and misery in their books or their music, right? I just really respond to that ever since I was young. I like that stuff.
Well, and I think the general public is into that. I mean, look at the cheapest form of this is true crime. Like, people getting into true crime and being enamored with that and seeing these really despicable, horrific things happen to people, real or fake or whatever. If you're watching SVU,
and that's the thing that I have to like bite my tongue at not being a snob about. Like I do bite my tongue. I hold back a lot, but there's a part of me that wants to be very Crumb about true crime. That finds it very like gross and something that maybe we should just not do. We should just stop doing as individuals in a society. But I also like many people I know who love true crime are great people. They're better than me. Like, they're not evil and it's not affecting them too much in a bad way. So like I have to tell myself that like they might also look. I don't want to put them in the place I've been put in, where all of a sudden I'm a freak for like liking Crumb, or reading Bastard Out of Carolina and calling it one of my favorite books,
Yeah, it is that difficult line of trying to defend something that you don't believe in, but you enjoy. Like you would see the art behind it. It is difficult. You want to talk about the brothers?
Yeah, we got to talk about the brothers.
We got to talk about the brothers, and I think we should start with Charles, which is the oldest of the brothers, and we mostly see interviews with him that are only done in the upstairs bedroom of the house I think they grew up in. And he's 50 years old, 50 plus at this time, and has lived with his mother for 30 years. Ever since he was 20, he took one job and then failed at that job after a year and it came back and went and lived with his mother. And they interview him, and you don't ever leave that room, but you feel every inch of that.
Oh yes, it's the most Grey Gardens part of the movie. Is you understand completely what this person's life is like. I mean, obviously you don't understand completely, but he's been medicated for many, many years after suicide attempts, deeply depressive, has no social life, kind of lives with a mother where they probably both kind of resent each other, and they just kind of zombify the same like empty, sad rituals. And underneath that is a brilliant intellect and a sweet disposition and a great sense of humor. Charles is so funny. And I like this guy. Like I want to go back in time and force him to be my friend. I'll go into his dirty house and hang out with him because I hate to see people like that get lost in society. It happens all the time. Brilliant, beautiful people who just can't make it in the world as we've designed it, and then therefore are disappeared into their own upstairs bedrooms,
And I don't know if I think the Charles moments are the best moments in this movie, because I do like seeing him on screen. I do get my empathy through Charles a lot more. He's out there, and he even says he's like, I don't even know why I'm saying the things that I'm saying. Maybe it's the medication that's allowing me to just be forthcoming. But like, he's open, he's honest, he tells everything that it and like really goes.
He experiences a lot of pain, but is able to compartmentalize it, which may be like the neutralizing effect of antipsychotics, right? The numbness lets you just say blunt truths, but not feel them, for better or worse, right?
It's And I think that even like going on top of the scene with Charles, we get that one scene. We hear the mother in the background, like talking about the curtains or where her kitties are or whatever that is. But we do get that one scene with Charles and his mother, I guess, in the other different, in a different room, maybe the living room of this house. And I think that's a hard scene to watch.
Yeah.
Not because of Charles, because of the mother. She is hard to watch for me in this.
Yeah. And she's very real and represents a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people like that. Again, like, the saddest people in the world are the ones you never see. Goose, I'll murder you. Leave my cat alone. You want to be a dog tomorrow? Fucking asshole. Sorry. I would never hurt you. I'm sorry. They're chasing my cat, and they're bullies. Anyway, yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough in how real it is. And like I've had family members who become recluses and become unhealthy and unkempt. And I'm not trying to make any bid for specialness when I say this stuff, but like between Art Crumb and Robert and Maxon and his mom, like, and having my own mental health problems in my life, like I see a lot of potential versions of myself, which made it a very personal movie to watch. Like I see glimpses of myself in ways my life could have gone and how hard it was to avoid some of those paths. And like a deep set fear that I may fall into one of those paths again. Reclusivity, not taking care of yourself, being an angry asshole with no true love in your life, that kind of stuff. Like it's all, I see like little things I like about all these people. And then I also see like paths that are there for me or have been there for me. And that living room is rough because they're not being honest down there. They're really just like finding shit to say while the camera's on.
Yeah. And we learn a lot more. And Crumb's mother comes up a bit as a like she didn't take any action or when their father was the tyrant that they described him to be. But they also describe her as a lot of like 50s housewives or late 40s housewives getting hooked on methamphetamines and, as diet.
Say that? I don't know that.
Yeah. She was hooked on methamphetamine as a diet pill, which you see a lot of during this time. And you see the repercussions of that in that mother who didn't have probably a great marriage, didn't have a great relationship with her children, also had to inherit the repercussions of those children being raised the way they are. And then now you have Charles in their house. Who knows what happened with Maxon before? I mean, Maxon had his own. Maxon is a complicated individual. Yeah, everybody is complicated in this, but it makes it sad, and it is really hard to watch. And like you said, we're not getting an honest portrayal down there.
We're not getting a full look. We're getting enough of a look to like guess at what might be in the unfilled out parts of the picture. But we're not getting a full look. It's been said, viewers have wondered if it was not exploitative to include the brothers in this movie. And I think that's a reasonable question. You think about what that house must be like and how difficult it was for Charles and their mother to let them in. You don't get to see, like you see at the beginning of the movie, Art Crumb, call his mom and her say, no, he doesn't want to talk to you. We don't want to do this. We don't want to be in this movie. And then all of a sudden they're talking.
Yeah.
And you don't see like what kind of needling took place or bullying to make that happen. And then you wonder what happens when the cameras leave and this weird, like, part of their family, this kind of unfeeling ghoul of a man comes back in and uses them for his documentary as the successful one who got out. And then they have to like have all this whirlwind of activity and attention and questioning and brutal questioning, but also like attention, and then have it go away and then to go back to their routine. Right.
Yeah. Do you think it is a more of a Crumb thing, or do you think it's a Zweigoff thing with the like?
I think they're equally guilty. If that's the case.
Guilty, yeah.
I mean, they both did it. I mean, Zweigoff could have asked if that was a good thing to do. Obviously. I mean, Crumb knew better, but honestly, like at the beginning, the first scenes with Charles and even with his mom, I kind of thought better of it. And then by the end of the movie, especially when he like admits how little he actually talks to them, and the way he just kind of goes like laughs at all of Charles' dark, like statements or whatever, I'm like, oh, you should leave this man alone. You don't deserve him. You definitely don't deserve his time or his problems being put in your movie.
And I'm glad you mentioned that about the end of the movie where he's like, yeah, I probably see my mom and my brother once a year, and Maxon, I don't know, that's the only worry that he has. He's like, I don't know what Maxon will do without me.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I kind of feel bad about that. I'm pretty much the only contact he has with anybody in his life. And anyways, I'm going to France.
Because it's less evil than the United States.
Yeah, I do like that line though.
It is a good line.
So we get Charles constantly rereading his books. They talk about and at a young age, they seemed pretty autistic about their comics writing and stuff like that, and the obsessiveness and their talent, like the level of how much they had to do it because they're so good. They're such good. All three of them are really good illustrators,
and at a young age too, he was showing all those comics that they did when they were like kids and in high school, and like those are good. They're
brilliantly creative. They have their own unique style, and I mean, we should take a minute because it's interesting. Like the movie's called Crumb, and it does talk about his work, but it's clearly a documentary about him as a person. And not about his work that much. But we should point out that like Crumb is also incredibly talented and creative. Like he's got a brilliant mind and is able to visualize things that nobody's ever put to paper before. Whether like those things end up being good or bad is kind of a coin flip. But it is like it's not surprising that he became such a cultural icon for his work. It's not surprising that art exhibits put his work up.
Yeah, we already kind of talked about this scene, but the scene where he is talking to his son about it, like as they're drawing that picture, like it is so interesting to me that he can pull that. Crumb can pull so much humanity and like little things and like changing from the things that he changes from the picture that they're copying, like looking at this, and he's like, oh, I gave her a head tilt because of this. I showed more of her teeth to show her being a little bit angrier because obviously they forced her to sit there and take this picture, and you can tell she doesn't want to be like. It's so interesting to me that he can pull that kind of humanity from them and have no appreciation for humanity at all.
It's fascinating because like I don't know if there's I think there's no technical distinctions between empathy and sympathy, or I've heard people say that there is. I don't know what words to give it, but like he fully grasps and sees, and when we talk about his like views of women, like in that picture, he sees that woman as a fully intellect and spiritual person, and can like understand that woman's intellectual and spiritual experience in this picture, and can imagine and sympathize with it. But then just when it comes to what he wants in life, he doesn't really seem to care about anybody around him.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And then we get to, let's talk about Maxon a little bit. Maxon is his other reclusive brother who lives in a hotel room, a dilapidated hotel room, and is kind of monk-like. I think that's one of the things that Ebert calls him in his review. He says that he's become a monk. I think the only thing that makes him a monk is that he's shaved his head and he sits on a bed of nails and eats a ribbon to clean out his bowels.
Well, he meditates a lot. I think they talk about
meditates.
He meditates hours every day. Yeah. I mean, you clearly see like three different paths of these people like trying to survive whatever's wrong with them or whatever like problems they have to get along in the world. And it's like kind of giving up and deep psych meds. I'm not saying psych meds are bad, but like deep medication and kind of reclusiveness with Charles. And then Maxon going this kind of like, I'm just going to be my own recluse in my own way and find my own spirituality. And he mentions like being very addicted to his routine. Like he has to do his routine. And that's what keeps him from going crazy, being suicidal, being violent again. And then our Crumb gets to like find this back door into society. And then be able to experience success through that back door. Finds a way to commodify, as much as he hates commodity, his weirdness into success.
It's almost like in a weird way that the three Crumb brothers are like the id, the ego, and the super ego of each other.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And like, because, and I only bring this up because like Maxon, we know is like, I think we hear in one of the things that he is like the only one that's done something bad, like sexual assault or something like that, was arrested for that, and acting on his instincts and doing those things, and like that makes him the what was it with that, the id, and then like the ego is our Crumb, and morality, I guess, version of it. The superego is maybe Charles a little bit, just because he's like, I can't do any of these things. I can't act on any of these things because they're odd, they're weird, and so I'm just going to close myself off to society completely. I'm stretching here.
No, I like it too, and like I would never want to accidentally state that like Charles's situation is good or that he deserved or anything like that. But he almost feels like, hey, we're three little monsters, and my way of dealing with the fact that I'm a monster is to like suicide eventually, but like slowly suicide, take myself out of the world and just kind of remove my ego. And just be like, whatever, I wasn't built for this world. I'll wait it out, is what he feels like. There's no use trying. There's no use making mistakes I might regret or hate. There's no use like wanting things I can't have. I just have to sit here and read my books till it's all over. As tragic as that is, he almost approaches it with this stoicism of like, that's what I'm good for. That's the best thing for me, is to just like wait this out and try again in the cycle of life, like
I like he's like, yeah, we're all monsters, and I'll wait this one out because I don't want to do this. I don't want to put this on anybody else. But
that may not be fair, and that's a difficult thing to say. Obviously, I don't think it's noble that he has to suffer like he did. But
what did you think of Maxon's art? Because I liked it.
We don't see a lot of it. What was his art?
Well, he actually does like the paintings. He does like oil paintings and things. He had a couple things of like Van Gogh with
the cornfield.
That was cornfield, and like he always has a gun in his hand because he's going to kill himself in the cornfield. But no, I really liked his work. I thought it was really good. It was obviously like it's got some like Picasso edges or things to it, and obviously some Van Gogh and stuff too, but I know I liked it a lot.
Right. And I mean, like, I said it jokingly, but I mean it. Like, most artists are assholes, but like you look throughout art history, obviously like what becomes curated as the best art of all time is highly sus, and like that process is, but you see people like Van Gogh, you see Michelangelo, you see like tortured geniuses who are very deeply compelled to create art under any circumstances. Who go through lots of pain and then also inflict a lot of pain on other people. And so like all three of these people like match the stereotype or the archetype of the tortured genius artist. And if we had this kind of honest documentary about Andy Warhol, he probably would come off worse, than Crumb does. Like, it's not that this guy is like especially evil. I think that he probably is more normal than we think of when we consider great artists.
Yeah. And it's funny to me too, because they talk about Maxon, and he goes out on the street every day. He obviously meditates and does his thing upstairs, but he'll go out on the street and he'll put out a hat to collect money, and he just he will sit on the bed of nails. He doesn't hawk his art out there to try and make money. It's just, hey, like
it sounds like he doesn't even ask for money. He just puts the bowl out and meditates on the bed of nails. That's all he does.
He doesn't ask for it at all. Which
I mean, if he could be healthy about it, that'd be great. But I can respect that. I think that's cool as fuck.
Yeah. Man, he looks rough to me.
He's very dirty. He's very unkempt. I don't know. I mean, I learned about Charles's fate. I don't know what happened to him in life.
No, Maxon is still alive. Maxon, R. Crumb, and R. Crumb's daughter are I think the only ones that are alive from this.
Even his son?
His son died it might have been like 2020 or something or sometime recent. He died in a car accident.
Oh,
yeah.
I liked him. I was rooting.
Yeah, I liked his son a lot, and he was 50. Because I think he's much, much older than the daughter. She was born in 81, so
different marriages.
Yeah, different marriages. So yeah, unfortunately, the only other like decent person in this is not with us anymore either. So
that's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, the brothers are the heart of the movie, and they're the most interesting part of it, even if it's problematic to watch. And then I guess the other hard scene we mentioned earlier, but we should talk about now, is like a little more depth, is that scene with his ex-girlfriend Kathy Goodell, I think her name was.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like on a rooftop like patio, and it starts off sweet enough of them remembering old times and looking at old pictures. That's like the first version of the scene, and then they go back. And she starts talking about what it was like dating him. it gets really gross, and you see Crumb at his grossest because she starts calling him out on lies and emotional manipulation that they had in their relationship, and his response is to just laugh and to touch her constantly.
Yeah.
He keeps touching her, and he's like giving her noogies, and he's grabbing her, and he's like, "Oh no, no, come on, ha ha ha, no, no, it's not, that wasn't that bad or whatever." And he never once says, "You're right, I cheated on you. You're right, I lied to you. You're right, I said I love you a million times and didn't mean it." And he, in fact, like gaslights her and says, like, "I never knew why you were crying all the time. It was so crazy." And she's like, "Well, these are the reasons why." And he never looks those reasons in the eye, and instead laughs and laughs and grabs her, and it's deeply unsettling to watch.
Yeah, there's like there's one in particular where he like grabs her shoulder, or like it's definitely a shoulder one where I was like, that was
Get him
bad.
away from her.
Yeah, and then like his defense of this is she's like, "Yeah, you never told me you love me." He's like, "Oh, I've never told anybody else." Then that's when we get the
She goes, "No, I have letters. You told me you loved me hundreds of."
yeah. And he was like, "Oh, I've never really loved any women ever."
Yeah, he has to like pivot that into something very special and unique about himself.
Yes.
But is never like, again, like I don't say respect. I can appreciate a weirdo asshole a little more if they can look at who they are in the face. And so for all of Crumb's like accomplishments, bravery and honesty are constantly said about his art. And there seems to be such a little bravery or honesty in his actual character. And that's what makes it doubly like, well, I don't know, man. Like, you go to bed with an artistic genius, like it's gonna be like, I don't know, we all know the story. This is how this goes. That doesn't mean it's anybody's fault, but for doing that, but I'm not that surprised by the story. But when just watching him be such a feckless little coward is like disgusting.
Yeah. And I don't know if I like, because I do feel like the girlfriend's portion of this is set alongside the pornography part of this as well, because it starts talking about his sex life and like asking his girlfriends like, what is his sex life like, and his wife is even like, "Oh, we barely even have sex. It's not actual sex at all." And then it shows his like fetishes and like him being celebrated in these pornography magazines, and we see a photo shoot with these girls and him like choosing.
Yeah, he likes piggyback rides and kind of like rubbing his dick on shoes and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
which I mean, I'm not gonna freak shame anybody.
No, I'm not going to do that either. But I think it's so interesting to like pair those again with those relationships, and we know that those relationships weren't good, and how he feels about women, and it's
Well, and then there might be something to it as well, that even if he has like found the backdoor way into being accepted by normal society or people or whatever, like he still can't do the sexual act in a traditional way. Like he's still masturbating even when he's sleeping with somebody, right?
yeah.
And that in some ways he's kind of silifying and humiliating, or like some kind of dominance over like, I'm gonna make you look as silly as I think you are, that kind of thing. So there's some of that like hostility towards women and psychosexual frustration seems to come out in his kinks as well.
And it's so interesting to me that he ends up with a partner like Aileen, because she seems she's a cartoonist as well, not as popular as he is, and not as successful as he is, but somebody that he respects her opinion of his art, and somebody that does feel a little bit more domineering of him, and dominating of him.
He can't really control her. Like he keeps telling her like to shush about things or teases her about stuff, and she just keeps talking and says what she wants to say.
Yeah, it's an interesting couple.
And I feel safer when the pornography magazine editor woman, like she seems so capable and intelligent and unflappable that I'm like, cool. Like if Crumb has to be with somebody, it should be with somebody who is that like is equally as thick-skinned and experienced. Because another thing is maybe his current marriage in this movie, like a lot of the looking back we get is from him when he's much younger, in the height of the Haight-Ashbury, Free Love comics, at the height of his success and stuff like that. And this is him looking back at a career and calmed down, maybe less horny, maybe less like needy for all of that stuff. Or and so you can imagine that the relationship is not as toxic as ones in his past were.
Like and we see like his first wife, who I still think talks very lovingly in this movie of him.
She's not in it a lot, but yeah, she didn't have anything bad to say. She actually showed that comic, was like, this was beautiful. This is like, why I fell in love with him. And it was very young then. I mean, yeah, like she was
I think that was
17.
pre-LSD trip.
Yeah, right.
The faded LSD trip that turned him into, let him put all of his racist and misogynistic thoughts on paper.
And he may have had a sense of like adolescence, sentimentality, and romanticism then that he lost afterward,
Yeah. Any other scenes to talk about or things that really stood? The only other thing I had was the packing up of everything, which is a very short scene at the end of the movie. I liked this bit of it. There isn't a lot of Crumb. I mean, there is a lot of Crumb doesn't shut the fuck up, but I do kind of like find it a little sad, and I feel him a little bit like he doesn't really want to move, and she's making him move to France, and you could like he doesn't want to move, and it's not because he doesn't want to move to France, it's because he doesn't want to move from his home. Like, I have established this record playing area here, and I don't want to move that, and I don't want people to touch my things and go through my precious jazz collection from 1930s,
he does have a good taste in music.
It's an interesting taste in music, but I don't know. Like, I
mythologized parts of Crumb that makes him likable from a distance. That there's a guy like this who wears his like little pork pie hat, and doesn't fit in with the hippies, but fits in because he's different too. Like it's what you want out of the mythology of Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco hippie movement. That like all freaks are welcome, kind of. And you like to think of R. Crumb being in the midst of the hippie movement,
but he hated
to jazz music and hating the Grateful Dead, right? And
I love that part. He was like, I hated their music. I hate rock and roll.
Went to a couple concerts. I fell asleep.
His affect is so funny.
Yeah, his affect too, right? Like I'm trying to figure out who he reminds me of. Famous people or people I've known, kind of like have crummisms to them.
You're looking crummy. You sound crummy. That's what it is. Yeah. Anything else that stuck out that you wanted to?
No, I just briefly like I did like that woman who was editing the magazine. She was really cool, and then she kind of shuts him up a little bit. He fights back a little bit, but there's a little dinner party scene where she just kind of like psychoanalyzes his being into feet, and he talks about like, oh, it's all back to being a little boy. Like the lower half, men who love the lower half of the body are more bright and sensitive, but like men who love like breasts are more aggressive and ambitious, and it all goes back to this. And he fights back with like a sexist comment about women, which in that context I feel is fair because she's saying things about men in a generalized way as well. But she just seemed cool and smart. But she's also the one that has the great line where she's like, Robert Crumb does not exaggerate anything in his comics. He writes himself exactly how he is, and he does in fact have the biggest penis in the world. One of the biggest penises in the world.
Which is that was one of my quotes that I had written down. I
think that's it. We covered pretty much all of it.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you like? I mean, there's not really characters in this, but they are all characters from the 80-year-old person saying that guy's a character. Yeah, there's a lot of those in this, but anybody that you really liked? Or
it's got to be Charles. I really felt for him. I really liked him as a person. I liked the way he was so smart. He was so funny, and he was very like sweet and humble. Obviously a tragic character, a tragic life, but I felt a lot for him.
Yeah, it's definitely Charles. All right, quotes from this movie. There are quite a few that we can go through here. I'm sure we've hit on a couple of these. We did just do he is endowed with one of the biggest penises in the world. So I'll let you go for another one.
Charles says, "I'm never constipated. That's about the best thing I can say about myself." That's hilarious.
Charles is so funny. The line is not said by Charles, but it's said by Crumb that Charles always used to say, and he even put it in his comics and stuff, how perfectly goddamn delightful it all is to be sure.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Like some of these are long. I'm just trying to this is a good, like, positive, I don't know who said it though, about summation of his art. Um, he gives you that tremendous kind of impaction of lusting, suffering, crazed humanity in sorts of bizarre gargoyle-like allegorical forms. He's just got this very powerful imagination, which goes right over the top of right over the top a lot of the time, but it very seldom lies. And I think that's true about his art, even though it's coming from a little monster. I do real quick. I don't have a quote for it, but I like that little scene where he has like the long cartoons of like people he sees in society, and he talks about being young and like a girl saying, "Oh, that's so cute. That's so cute." He goes, "Cute? This is a nightmare. Like this is a," and I think that is one of the nicer ways to approach who he is as a person, or ways that I can sympathize with and be like, "Yeah, this stuff is nightmarish. It's frightening. Like it is a." It is often an autistic experience too, to like look around at all of the different shapes in the world and find them grotesque and scary and dumb and pointless. But sometimes like people can't see that in his art. They think that he's just drawing really cute cartoons, and he's like, "No, I'm showing you what I see, and I think it's miserable." Yeah.
I think it was in the NPR interview where the person asks him about something very similar to this, and he was like, "Oh, Howdy Doody." They were talking to him about Howdy Doody, and he was like, "Howdy Doody. Everybody thought Howdy Doody was so cute, and I felt like he was the creepiest, grossest thing I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah.
And how could you not like do more things like that? And that's what I was into, was creating these not cute figures, but these gross, grotesque things. So it goes along with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is very likable about Crumb. If he lets you tap into his fear, is if you can make him humble, if you can make him act humble, like and be like, you're scared, and you feel guilty, you feel bad, you feel scared, and you feel angry, and those are all vulnerabilities. And if he could show that anywhere outside of his art, then you could like him more.
Yeah.
And forgive more about his behavior.
What other quotes do you have here?
I got there's another long one. I got like 3 or 4 long ones. This is Crumb. I just hope that somehow revealing that truth about myself is somehow helpful. I don't know. I just hope that it is, but I have to do it. Maybe I shouldn't be allowed. Maybe I should be locked up and have my pencils taken away from me. I just don't know. I can't say, I can't defend myself. It was like my daughter Sophie was watching Goodfellas. We got a videotape of it, and the violent part horrified her so deeply that she started getting a stomach ache, and I shut it off and wouldn't let her watch it. Although I think it's a great movie, a truthful movie, and I got a lot out of seeing it, but it's obviously not for a kid. Certain harsh realities of life, you got to kind of protect your kids a little bit from that. Anyways, that last bit's more in context with who he's talking to, but
yeah.
But the first part of like you said, he keeps talking about having this compulsion to make it, and he advocates responsibility a lot when people are like, "Why do you do what you do?" He's like, I just do it, like it or don't like it. Put me in prison, do what you got to do, society. I'm going to keep drawing the things that come out of my head, which is kind of beautiful and kind of a cop-out,
Yeah. I also think it's interesting that he was like, "Hey, my 8-year-old daughter should sit down and watch Goodfellas with us."
Yeah, that does stick out.
You should, I mean, you should have known.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Yeah, I had I think the part of that speech written down as well. I also have this little interaction, which is kind of funny, really sad, between Robert and Charles, where Robert says, "I always kind of envied your life in a way because my life has become so hectic." And Charles interrupts and says, "Why? Because I'm so detached from the human race? Is that one of the reasons why you envy me?" And Robert says, "You've got this cloistered environment with your books." And Charles said, "Believe me, it's nothing to envy."
Yeah.
And that broke my heart. And I was
it broke my heart, and it made me mad at our Crumb. I was like,
yes,
you should know that about your brother, that his existence is nothing to envy. He's trying to like paint a picture of where like, oh, Charles is fine. He likes his books. Well, I mean, what is he going to do? I mean, what that's just who he is. It's what he likes. Leave him alone. Like, instead of being worried, instead of trying to existence in any way. He can empathize with Charles. He refuses to because he doesn't want to have to do the things he has to do once he empathizes with him.
Yeah, that's a responsibility he's not willing to take on. What else?
You might have mentioned this earlier. When I listen to old music, it's one of the few times I actually have a kind of love for humanity. You hear the best part of the soul of the common people. It's their way of expressing their connection to eternity, or whatever you want to call it. Modern music doesn't have that. It's a calamitous loss that people can't express themselves that way anymore. I think that is like an old man yelling at a cloud kind of thing, but
right.
But it does like speak on things that I think are very beautiful. That he does like purity of art when it's just when it's yearning, human yearning for a greater thing, and doesn't like the commodified, like formulaic art that's
Yeah.
most popular.
Charles said to his mother, you would always threaten to give us enemas if we didn't behave properly.
Yeah, well, the other one I had from that was because she was like, "No, I never did that." And then at some point, Crumb goes, "Well, somebody tried to give me an enema." And that is like one little accidental peek we get into how difficult that household must have been.
Yeah.
Making the kids wear castor oil, drink castor oil, being obsessed with constipation because dad was constipated all the time, and then like threatening them with enemas is a dark thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Super
And
dark.
so if that's just like one little thing they can joke about, what else was going on?
Man, I go back to this part when Charles was talking about himself and Crumb was talking about Charles growing up in high school and being teased. And he says like, Charles was the best looking one of us all. And then they showed like a picture of him and like, that's a good looking kid.
Yeah.
Like, what are they? The Kellogg's fan? God, the Kellogg's are something else too. Have you ever, there's a movie about Kellogg with Anthony Hopkins as,
I think I've seen it. I don't remember
it
of it.
came
I remember
out in
a
94 or something. Yeah. That man's insane.
Yeah, the Kellogg's are
And has
wild.
some problems.
And Battle Creek, Michigan, all of that stuff is the cereal wars. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. That's a good the history of the food or whatever, the food that made us. If you've ever watched those shitty little documents, those are good. What else? Any other?
I got one more, and it's very long, but I got it.
Go for it.
And this is very juvenile, but it was one of the few moments I said, I was like, this sounds like I'm talking, or it sounds like 20-year-old me's talking and angry, but Jesus, fucking raging epithet music coming out of every car, every store, every person's head. They don't have noisy radios on. They got earphones, like motherfucking cocksucking son of a bitch. A lot of aggression, a lot of anger, a lot of rage. Everybody walks around. They're walking advertisements. They've got advertisements in their clothes, walking around with Adidas written across their chests, 49ers on their hats. Jesus, it's pathetic. It's pitiful. The whole culture is one unified field of bought, sold, market researched everything, It used to be that people fermented their own culture. It took hundreds of years and it evolved over time, and that's gone in America. People now don't even have any concept that there ever was a culture outside of this thing that's created to make money. Whatever's the biggest, latest thing, they're into it. You just get disgusted after a while with humanity for not having more intellectual curiosity about what's behind all this jive bullshit.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Again, it's a little adolescent, but it's speaks to me.
Yeah. The only other ones I had was I mentioned this one earlier when Crumb is talking to his son. He says, we're not talking about rich and famous. We're talking about learning how to draw. And then the only other one I wrote down was France isn't, perfect or anything, but it's just slightly less evil than the United States.
I like that one a lot. I didn't write that down.
I didn't have anything, but because we just talked about, but like biggest laugh, cry, scare, thrill.
I think we talked a lot about it. I think let's see. The only one that we haven't talked about, because Cry was just like Charles, Max, and Kathy Goodell. But towards the end, when they show his period of Charles's period of graphomania,
oh yeah,
and the compulsion, like it's so darkly, it gives you like a dark, morbid curiosity, but it really I don't know, man. Seeing people with that kind of mental health stress is just, it's heartbreaking. Because to imagine a person who's compulsed to do those things and has to do them to try to deal with whatever pain's going on inside their brain is, I don't know, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was pretty hard. Any WTF ridiculous moments that we didn't mention?
I think we talked about them. Angel Food was the character's name, the black caricature. But yeah, Bugs Bunny and 4-year-old erections. That's what I got.
Yeah. I put any of the sections with Robert Hughes, the like him just trying to defend some of the stuff that.
And I think one of those quotes I read was his quote about like what makes Crumb good. And I think it was a good, but again,
that is a good quote.
Wikipedia summary of like what makes like Art Crumb, a good artist.
Any music that stood out to you?
Nothing specifically, but I do like the jazz and blues in the background. And it's a big part of who he is. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah,
Yeah.
nothing specific.
All right. So I didn't do anything for F Mary Kill, but I did think it would be funny if I did like rubber boot, long cloth ribbon,
Bugs Bunny picture.
Bugs Bunny picture, Charles's teeth. I don't know.
Yeah. Doesn't she? The mom's like, he's got $200 teeth up there and he never wears them.
Yeah, he's like, why do I need to wear them? I never go anywhere.
Yeah, what am I gonna put my teeth in every day for?
And then Crumb does ask, he's like, but what about chewing food? And he's just like,
Yeah.
Oh, it's all right. No real performance, no recasting or anything like that.
No.
You can't recast a documentary. Fun facts that you learned about this film.
None of them were that fun. Obviously, if we haven't said it, we referenced it, but a year after this was filmed, Charles did a complete suicide, which is very tragic and sad. But I guess if there's any comfort to be taken, like I did appreciate getting to know Charles a little bit. So hopefully that wasn't a stressful thing that happened to him, or it didn't make anything worse. But I like that guy a lot, and my heart goes back out into the past for him.
Yeah, it was a sad one. We also get the little stinger too that the other two sisters were reached out to about being in this film and declined to do it. And they actually ended up like threatened to file a lawsuit against Robert in the production unless he paid them reparations for his crimes against women.
I'm fascinated by it. I have that too, and I want to know more. I want to hear them. I want to say, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like that you hate his art from a feminist standpoint, which is fair? Do you hate him as a person for things you know he's done? Did he do something to you? That kind of stuff. Like
I couldn't find anything.
Business, but like they seemed, based on that one sentence that I also read, they seem so unified and they're not participating in their reasons and angry at him for a lot of I want their voice to be heard, I guess. But
yeah.
I didn't have time to like look into it much.
Yeah, I didn't. I looked it up a little bit to see if I could find anything about his two sisters, but there's not a lot out there on the internet about them. So
I also didn't have time, but apparently there's like back and forth stuff about this, because apparently I read one thing where like the people said that Crumb hated the movie and wouldn't talk to Terry again, but then like Terry's like, that's not true. We talk all the time. But they did say that Crumb and his wife drew what was called a scornful cartoon about the movie, and I didn't have time to go find that and see what it said.
I didn't see that either. Zweigoff apparently was not in a good place of this and was like begging for money to try and get this to off the ground, just anything. I think at this point he was like, oh, I'm friends with this guy, he's interesting, let's try and make a documentary about him, because I want to kill myself if I don't. And there's a legend that Ebert says that he threatened, that Zweigoff actually threatened to kill himself to get Crumb to cooperate, but that's not true. But he did suggest
Roger Ebert started that rumor, but then so he had to dispel it.
Yeah. So they suggested that making the film probably saves Zweigoff's life.
Yeah.
So
he went to bed every night with a loaded gun by his bed because his back pain was so bad.
Jeez.
Which is crazy.
He got that JFK back.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that Zweigoff has made some pretty interesting movies, but a lot of the facts are about him. He was in Crumb string band when they recorded. He played cello or maybe mandolin or something in Art Crumb's band, and they recorded some albums. But he also was part of the comic scene and was a comics editor, including that he edited some of Art Spiegelman's early comics, and like the first small things that eventually turned into Mouse were edited by Terry Zweigoff, which is kind of cool.
That is cool. Did you see anything about this film was produced by David Lynch? It's presented by David Lynch, but he didn't have any actual involvement in this. Zweigoff said that Lynch did not respond to a request for funds until after the film was already finished, but they did agree to have Lynch's name in advertising to try and get more viewers because of this. I wonder if Lynch was like, I'm weird, but this guy sucks.
Well, I think what I read was that he just never got back to them. They had asked him for money, and he just never got back to him until after they had already made the movie. And then when he got back to him, he was like, "Oh, sorry, it's taking so long. I just saw this. What's going on?" And they were like, "Oh, well, the movie's already made now." And then David Lynch, I think, supported the movie and was like, "All right, well, if it's all done, I can't help but if you want to like put my name on it to help marketing, which I'm sure did help a lot for especially
Yeah.
the audiences that would enjoy this. Putting a David Lynch's name in the mid '90s on this kind of weird documentary probably was a big deal.
That is a pretty big deal, especially coming off of like what Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks, and I guess that's
in advertising. Hey, this is a movie about weirdos for weirdos, you know.
yeah. So I already said the thing earlier about the nominating committee stopping watching after only 20 minutes of doing that. And so they kind of changed some rules around how things get nominated because of the lack of Hoop Dreams and this movie in there. So anything else?
Nope, that's all I have for trivia.
Yeah. This was filmed over 6 years. So it happens from like 88 to 94, I think is when they get it. And then a year after that, Charles commits suicide.
Yeah.
All right. Like a Fine Wine and Dish, if you could pair this movie with another movie for a double feature, what would you choose?
Well, I mean, we already mentioned American Splendor, which is about another independent artist, outsider artist, comic writer, frenemy of Art Crumb, and Art Crumb is a character in it, so that makes sense. Grey Gardens for an uncomfortable documentary. And then the last one is another Terry Zwigoff movie, Ghost World, which I would point out is good because clearly there's some Art Crumb ingredients in there. I think Steve Buscemi's character really likes old jazz. He's kind of a grumpy outsider. He's got like a posture and way of talking that's similar to Art Crumb. So now after watching this, I see more of Crumb's influence on Ghost World, which is probably the best movie Terry Zwigoff ever made. And a great one if you missed it.
Yeah, that is a good one. What is it? Daniel Klaus is the guy who did the comic for that?
Did the comic, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody in chat, or Alyssa says like, what's the documentary series where the guy says "slam the man"? I know what she's talking about. There's a series on, I think it's on Peacock. It's called Paul T. Goldman. It's only one season, but it is about a very strange man who gets manipulated, and then when he figures out that he's gotten manipulated, he kind of lashes out and disguises it behind a noble cause, but it really is just about him, hating women and doesn't really know how to communicate. It's a very funny documentary series. So I can't recommend it enough. It is.
What was the name again?
Paul T. Goldman. And it's a short watch. I think there's like 6 or 8 episodes, but they're like 30 minutes a piece. So I introduced it to Alyssa when we first started dating, and we watched the entire thing in a night. So because she couldn't stop watching it. So
all right, I'll check that out.
That's a good one. Other things that I had American Splendor down. I also put Fritz the Cat, just in case you want to see something insane that is based on a character made by Crumb. But I have 2 documentaries down. One is Gonzo, the life and work of Hunter S. Thompson, which is been around for a while. And I think that Hunter S. Thompson is an interesting individual, especially talking about like Gonzo journalism and him as a human being. There's a lot of celebrities in there that really like beat off to how awesome Hunter S. Thompson is. And I've always
I like his writing, but I don't like the hero worship about him.
Yeah, the hero worship is the especially when it's like John Cusack and Johnny Depp that are just like loving it. Killing Flies is a decent pairing, as well as far as documentaries where you can't decide if the guy's a genius or an asshole or both. I don't know Killing Flies.
I like Killing Flies. It's a really good movie. It's about I don't know, he's a deli owner and he's an asshole. He's like a real life soup Nazi kind of guy.
Okay.
And he talks about how he likes killing flies. He goes around with a fly swatter and kills all the but he's just kind of a tyrant in his like little world, and it's kind of awesome and kind of problematic. I just thought of 2 more actually. Shut Up Little Man.
Shut Up Little Man, yeah.
Shut Up Little Man. It doesn't sustain for like a whole hour and a half. It should be like an hour documentary, but we're just not allowed to do that. But like this really problematic couple who find out are gay lovers, even though they don't seem gay in any like traditional way. But they just screamed at each other all the time, the same insults every morning and every night. And somebody had to live next to them and hear it. So they just started like recording them against their will, putting like a microphone out in the windowsill and recording all the things they screamed at each other. And it is one of those disturbing found footage, like what happens in all the apartments and houses around us where there's Charleses and Maxons and, It's kind of like that.
And
then
that's like about like the like physical media like cassette trading and stuff like that. Isn't that what that's about?
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that aspect because back in the day, which is a cool kind of lost thing where, people couldn't get anime in the United States, but also there'd be like weird, and some of it would be dark, like Faces of Death kind of stuff, recordings, but some of it would just be like strange, silly prank phone calls and stuff like that, where people would just trade cassettes and copy them in like, VHS stores or comic book shops or wherever you found weirdos. And that was how I think the documentarian found the Shut Up Little Man and had to go find the whole story. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one. I added another documentary. Maybe you've seen it. I cannot recommend it enough. It's called Minding the Gap. It really doesn't have much to do with artists or anything like that, but it has to do with three kids who filmed themselves. They were skateboard kids from the Midwest. I think it was in Indiana somewhere, like a suburb of Chicago, maybe on the Indiana side. These three kids growing up, and they documented everything. And the director of it put it all together eventually. But it talks about like one of the things that I think like abuse in this movie, and like you falling in love with these kids and then discovering like the really not great parts about these kids. And then you see like it sets the story and like interviews the parents and the relations around them. It's good. And
I heard it's heartbreaking and inspiring. When that movie came out, everybody was talking about, not everybody, because I don't think everybody knew about it, but the people who had seen it just could not tell me how good this movie was enough. And I've been wanting to see it for years. I still haven't. So I should finally take the time. So I every description about it, I'm like, I will love that.
Yes. Yeah, it sold me. I was super into that skateboard thing. I never skateboarded, but I love skateboard culture and all that stuff during the same time. And yeah, I recommend it every time. I think Criterion has a release of it. It's been on the channel a couple times before. Yeah, if anybody wants to do that, Criterion sale still going on right now.
Yeah, check it out.
Check it out.
I have one last one. I don't mean
go for it. No,
but it's a really good thought. Shirley Clark, especially if you want to see like really good female directors before there was many of them. She made a lot of stuff in the 60s. She ended up, I think she directed like the Newport Folk Festival or one of the big music festival things she directed. She did a lot of stuff with like jazz and cityscapes, like artistic shorts. The Cool World is like her most Hollywood style movie, and it was a like brutal look at heroin addiction in the 60s, and like all takes place in real time inside of an apartment. It's very good. But there's a documentary she made, and I will put out that it's very problematic and considered problematic, called Portrait of Jason. And Jason was a black man in New York City in the 60s who was kind of a hustler, did some sex work. He was a gay man, but also like would show up at bars with funny stories or lies or tall tales that would entertain people. Would get free drinks. And he's the most charming, eloquent, intelligent, theatrical kind of dude. And throughout this documentary, Shirley Clark and her partner get him, say, hey, we'll ply you with free drinks, come up to our apartment. We just want to talk about you. So it's Portrait of Jason. And it starts off really nice, but they get him drunker and drunker. And then they start confronting him with like lies he's been telling or times he stole from people, until he like breaks down in tears. And like, it's difficult, but it is a very special piece of film.
Yeah.
They totally exploited this person. And when you see Portrait of Jason, you walk away seeing like all the flaws of who Jason was. You get mad at the film creators as you hear Shirley Clark, like, berating him toward the end, and he's too drunk to defend himself. But you also see how beautiful he was and kind of imagine his life as a black gay man in New York, just trying to stay alive in clubs and stuff like that, feeding addiction, stuff like that. It's a difficult watch, but it is one of the most unique films I've ever seen. Yeah. If you like documentary or like stretching the what documentary can do to, like this movie does in Crumb, show the dark parts of real humanity.
Yeah,
it's a great watch.
Yeah, I like that. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Well, on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to rewatch this movie?
1.5.
Yeah.
It's only thing I can imagine is I've always wanted to spend time going through like artful documentaries of all time kind of thing. So maybe if I end up doing that in 5-10 years, I might rewatch Crumb as part of, because I think it belongs in that list of a difficult but like brutally honest documentary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a fun watch. It's difficult.
Yeah, I watched it 5 years ago, and I had kind of similar views to it, and I didn't remember how hard it was to watch.
Yeah.
And only 5 years removed. And yeah, I forgot completely about it. And man, oof, that was a hard one. So I gave it a 2. Yeah, definitely a 2. And then overall, 1 to 5 stars. What'd you give it?
I wrote down 3.5. I could talk myself into a 4. Again, it's very difficult to have to separate what you feel about the subject
Yeah.
and what's on screen with the art of documentary making. I do think it's a brave and honest documentary, and it's a really good example of what the art form can do. And bringing that into my living room is difficult and asks a lot of questions, but art, it can be challenging, should be challenging. Seeing these things and asking these questions, I think, is very healthy, even if it's difficult. It's good exercise for the spirit and for the soul to engage with difficult art. So I could be talked into a 4, but I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah, I gave it a 4 as and because of all the reasons that you said, and the fact that, you know, we've talked about this movie for an hour and a half now, and I feel like I could continue to talk about this movie more and more. And I think that speaks volumes, not only about Crumb the person and learning more about Crumb, but the film itself and what it did. So
And just to put a pin in me talking earlier about like always trying to understand why I'm drawn to sad or dark things sometimes in entertainment and art. This did affect me, and it does stay with me. And obviously, you have to be careful that it doesn't affect you in a negative way or take away your joy. But like, I like when art it energizes me. It keeps my brain moving. It keeps my heart pumping. To have all of these conflicting feelings, and it kind of enlivens me to engage with the difficult parts of life at times in the right amounts and spaces. You know.
Yeah. So difficult movie. I only recommend it to those if you can get through the first 20 minutes. It only gets worse from there. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this one. Before we wrap up, any recent movie recommendations, book recommendations, TV recommendations, anything that you want to put out there?
I did mention it earlier, and I'm looking at it. You said book, so Bastard Out of Carolina is a modern Southern Gothic classic. It is devastating. You trigger warnings for a lot of abuse, but it is one of the most brilliantly written books about Southern families and broken families and abuse. But it is beautiful in its tragedy. The only movie I just got back from 7 days in Las Vegas. But we saw the day before opening day, we saw Wicked for Good.
Oh, okay.
And that's I saw Wicked for Good. I'm done. I'll just be very brief in that in Discord I talked about it when I was watching Oscar movies. I'm not the biggest fan of Wicked as a musical. The first movie blew me away with how well executed it was. I was a very big fan. I think a lot of it is less in the sequel. But it is the conclusion of all things. Certainly, I think the sequence of the song "For Good" was really touching and beautiful. So if you're a fan of Wicked, you're going to love it. I think it's worse than the first movie, but yeah, if you've seen the first one and thought you liked it at all, you got to see the next one.
Yeah. We're gonna see it in theaters soon, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, I like the first part of the musical is better than the second part of the musical, so.
Yeah, I think everybody's always agreed on that too. So that's part of it. And then just the surprise of how well they did everything and what they made it look like isn't there when you've been used to it before.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's good.
Nice. The only thing I've been watching are the Marvel movies, and Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 were the last movies that I watched. And I will say, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, that's a good movie.
That's a good movie.
I think it is one of the top tier MCU movies. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I think the first two Guardians are probably in the top 10 MCU movies. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and if you want to get more information about that, join our Discord server, and you can get things like the link that we've got in the chat here. This is actually that cartoon that you had mentioned earlier. So if you want to check that out. We talk about that in the Discord server. You're always welcome to follow us on Instagram or check out the Letterboxd. Next Sunday, we're finishing our theme of Something for Everyone, and our next movie is Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days. This is a movie I discovered a couple years ago, and I'm really looking forward to discussing this one. It's going to be a good one. So we'll be back, I think, on regular time. Maybe not with all the traveling and things going on, but you can come back tomorrow because we're going to be doing our extra credit theme. I think you'll be here tomorrow.
I'll be here.
Where we're going to talk about our family, or we're going to talk about families, where all our films are talking about family coming together for better or worse. That includes My Family, or Mi Familia, Bye Bye Love, and Home for the Holidays. And that is tomorrow at 6 p.m. So join us for that. And thank you, everyone. And thank you for supporting us. And we'll see you next time on 52/1995.
Be nice to women.
What a year.